Now, welcome back to the channel, where today we're going to be talking a little bit about toy prices, action figure prices in particular, because as you may or may not have heard, Hasbro and Lucasfilm have reached a new agreement. We will be getting more Star Wars toys for Hasbro for the next foreseeable years, and that in itself is not surprising. I don't think there's any other company besides perhaps Mattel that could really even consider trying to get their hands on the Star Wars license, considering how much that costs. We don't know how much that is, but I have to imagine it's pretty astronomical. But going along with this announcement, we've also learned that prices on figures are going to be going up in the near future, which you could say not a surprise considering the state of the world, the state of the...
I'm tired of blaming the world for why everything's more expensive.
Sure, but the distribution chain, just inflation in general. There are, of course, problems in the world that can explain this. However, it leads to the question of how much are you willing to pay for a vintage collection or a Black Series or perhaps Legos we could talk about as well. They are already pretty pricey, aren't they?
When Lego introduced the gold brick, they meant gold.
Yeah, literal gold. I mean, they are golden
Legos are
bricks.
Expensive. Looking at Legos today, I mean, when I was a kid, my parents bought me Lego Knights castles because that's what I wanted. Looking at the prices today, I'm like, how did they afford to buy me a Lego set?
We love Legos. We have a few Lego sets. I mean, one of the main problems with Lego beyond price is they're large. They take up a lot of space, so they're not easy to display. But even still, you go in there, it's not uncommon for a small set to be $50, you know?
Oh, yeah.
That maybe you put together in a half hour, and then... I guess you can play with Legos. I've never really been a play with Legos kind of guy. I've been a build Legos.
When I was a kid, we played with my Lego castles.
Even when I was a kid, the construction kind of toys, I would, build them and never really play with them. They just kind of sit there.
No, I definitely, when I was a kid, I played with them. But now they're like dressing up set pieces, really.
Yeah, that's what most, it's kind of sad how that's what toys, especially action figures. I'm sure kids still play with toys. Absolutely. There are kids who play with toys. But you almost wonder what's the ratio to adults who just buy it to, display it and build whatever it might be. I mean, it's got to be.
Well, there's a difference in the sets too. Especially when you walk through the Lego aisle. I mean, I was looking at them the other day with you, and I was showing you how there's like the black boxes that you can tell that these are the adult sets. They have more pieces. They're more complicated. They look more of an accurate representation of what they are representing or being built of.
Well, sure.
And then there's the sets that are clearly more for everyone else.
Well, yeah, but I'm not just talking Lego. I'm talking in general. I mean, when you go through the toy aisle, yes, again, kids play with toys. I'm sure that will never completely go away. But when you go through toy aisles, I swear I see more adults kind of perusing it and looking at stuff. And when you look at the kind of things that are in there, it's all like He-Man, it's things that are, well, not all He-Man, but, He-Man wrestling toys and things that are kind of that 80s nostalgia feel to it. It's, G.I. Joe is making a comeback, Transformers, it's all these things. I swear I go through a time warp when I go into the toy department.
Like, this is just how I remember it.
This is everything I saw when I was a kid, 30, 40 years ago going through a toy aisle.
I miss Toys R Us.
Sorry. Don't remind me. I
remember going through Toys R Us as a kid, and like half the toys were like display set that you could actually play with.
Aisles of Star Wars toys, especially back in, I can still remember early 80s going in there and just seeing an aisle of like Return of the Jedi and Power of the Force original figures.
Hey, I had a Teddy Ruxpin, and I remember seeing those in the store when I wanted a Teddy Ruxpin so bad because they had him up on the wall with his caterpillar friend, and they were talking back and forth because they were reading and telling their stories, and I thought it was the coolest thing.
Indeed, but getting back to it, not to take away from Teddy Ruxpin.
Should never take away from Teddy Ruxpin.
But how much is too much for, your a Black Series, vintage collection? I mean, right now, Black Series are sitting at basically $22 most stores. I think Walmart, you can still find them for $20. Vintage collection are basically $15. Like, honestly, how much are you willing to pay for pieces of plastic?
If they're going to make the price more expensive, the figure has to improve in
But
quality.
I'm just saying,
if they want me to pay $30 for a figure that I knew I used to pay $20 for, especially if they like
$15,
then it better have a ton of accessories. It better have exchangeable hands, maybe an exchangeable head. Get it more along the lines of a figure arts.
I mean, let's not forget early 2010s. I don't remember if Black Series were 20 or 15 when they first came out, but Marvel Legends in the early 2010s were $15.
Oh yeah.
And now they're probably going to be
old days.
Yeah, now they're probably going to be 22, 25, just the same as Black Series and vintage collection. I mean, holy cow, $15 for that small. I mean, probably up to 18, 20. I don't know where does it end?
Like other toy lines that we have collected or
see in the store.
the store. same price as a Black Series figure, but they come with all the extra parts. They come with
More
extra
accessories,
hands. They
yeah.
come with extra body parts sometimes. So you could totally change out the figure. And then Black Series, they call Boba Fett a deluxe figure, and it came with nothing that would really classify it as deluxe.
Yeah, well, that's the big problem. I mean, to talk about Black Series, and I know Vintage Collection, you guys have your complaints too. I'm not as big into vintage, but when that line began in 2012, 2013, 10 years ago now, roughly, it was kind of promised to be the definitive version, and they would give you all these accessories. I mean, you look at that first line, like, I always go back to, like, the Han Solo, I think it's in the second wave of the orange, boxes. It comes with all these extra hands, extra belts, all these extra things, and you're like, well, this is, granted, the figures themselves, especially the face printing technology,
oh boy,
it's come a long way. We can all remember the early Leia,
Olga?
Yeah, oh God, and how horrible she looked. So they've come a long way in terms of the quality, especially in the face, but accessories, like where's the definitive version? Now it feels like if we can, if we put an extra gun in there, we're going to charge you an extra $10 and call it deluxe. Or we put an extra paint app or two on there and we're going to call it deluxe.
And they're not even good with their soft goods. Every Jedi almost should come with a robe, and the robe should be a decent quality material, something light enough so that it can lay. Maybe put wires in it. The slave Leia we had. Remember, we did some custom work on her, gave her a new chain and everything. And what did I do? We bought a new material for the cloth she wears, and I stitched a piece of wire in it all the way around so you could actually lay the thing. Yeah. So it looked nice.
Looks more natural with the wire in it than it does with just the way, because it's so small. It's just not gonna.
It can't bend and fold the way it needs to.
It's not gonna look normal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they need to up the quality on these things if they want collectors to keep shelling out money.
But they're not going to. They're going to, if anything, they'll just justify cutting back corners because the prices but then you look at the Rancor and what they did with that, like they initially had that price tag of $350, and then when it wasn't going to meet that, well, suddenly we can afford to give you a newly tooled Malakili at the same price point. So you really wonder what their margins are. How much money do they make off the average figure?
I think that they're doing pretty well financially.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure they're doing fantastic. So if you're going to raise the price another $1 or $2, I'm gonna guess $25 for a Black Series. $3? Are you really going to try to tell me it's going to cost an extra $3 today than it did a year ago or 2 years ago to make a figure? And I understand, yes, problems in the world, prices are going up. I get it. But really, $25 is what you need to charge to make a profit off of these?
They can't even promise Vintage Collection figures aren't going to come with a mangled card.
No, oh God. That's one of the reasons I don't collect vintage, because they're so hard to find in the store. Every time I order one, it comes to, Amazon will throw it in a padded envelope and it's bent. and I collect them on card because that's my childhood, the Vintage Collection like I said before. I remember going through the Toys R Us aisles and seeing all those cards. And so I collect them on card and I just cannot get them mint.
Well, it's hard enough to look at them and find one with nice paint apps, but then you have to find one with a nice card too.
It's impossible. And plus the cards are just flimsier than they've ever been before.
Make them on metal.
Something. I'd pay the extra money if I could be guaranteed, mint cards. Yeah, I'll give you an extra $1 to $2 for that. So many times I've just received just completely mangled cards, or the bubble is crushed, or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of just discouraged me from collecting. Not to mention how many figures I have on pre-order right now. I have pre-orders from over a year ago. Well, I have a list. I think I have like 30 Black Series figures on pre-order or something crazy. But no, I really wonder what the future of the hobby looks like, because there are people obviously they're just not going to say, I'm not going to pay $25 for this or $20 for a vintage collection. I'm not going to do it. It's too much. Or the people who used to buy, I'm an army builder. I used to buy 2, 3. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to pay $25 every time I see a stormtrooper in the store. It's just not going to happen. And so how many, see, that's the problem. How many collectors do you lose? How many are you going to, off the top, are you going to lose that just aren't going to buy them anymore, and you're still going to lose money in the long run, right? You would think the number sold is more important than trying to skim an extra $1 here and there, or maybe not. I don't know.
Well, for all we know, maybe the biggest problem is how much did it cost for them to renew this contract with Disney and Lucas?
That's an interesting question. Is it more? Is it less?
Is it because they're trying to scam us out of extra money because they want more money for their figure, or is it just them trying to eat the cost of how much it's costing to keep the license?
I have no doubt that the license is huge. It's huge, right? But I have to imagine there's some flexibility here now. I have to imagine negotiations had to be interesting, considering the sequel trilogy was a flop.
Negotiations, didn't they include Indiana Jones toys for some
Yeah, well,
reason?
I think it's all of Lucasfilm. So I mean, you might see some Willow toys too, but I mean, in
and
terms
those
of...
aren't going to be made for nowadays kids who aren't even going to be familiar.
No, they're going to be
with
for...
Indiana Jones
I mean,
and
like
Willow.
I was saying, most toys these days are made for adults, but like I'm saying, the sequel trilogy was a relative flop in terms of toy sale, I have to imagine. I think The Force Awakens did well, but from there on out, you can just tell the amount of toys that were being sold is nowhere near. Just going off the Force Friday alone, we went to all the Force Fridays. The Force Awakens was packed, and by the Rise of Skywalker, there's a handful of people there, and they're there for pop vinyls, not even Hasbro's merchandise.
Right. It was kind of a shame.
It is kind of a shame. It's a shame to see this hobby, I don't want to say dying. I don't know that that's the case, but it's certainly not doing particularly well, it feels like.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, between the, repackaging things and just the delays and the price hikes.
Well, yeah, they're making all these figures. Look, we redid this figure with the face printing technology. We redid this figure with the face printing technology. Well, where are the figures that I'm missing from the collection in general?
Yeah, well, it's easier, it's cheaper for them to just paint on a face than it is to sculpt a whole new figure.
Right, but there's a lot of parts they could reuse, I'm sure.
They do. I mean, they originally weren't doing that so much, but now they have been reusing parts. You can tell there's figures that have the same bodies with different heads.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But, I mean, that's what Marvel Legends, that's why you get so many Marvel Legends. They are not shy about reusing body parts.
Oh, yeah, they've got they've stores and stores of parts.
Yeah, I mean, they'll just slap a new head and a different coat of paint on a figure, and it's a whole new figure, which it works for Marvel Legends. I don't know that it works the same for Star Wars. But anyway, I think that's all we got for you this time. Now it's your turn. Take to the comments below. Tell us how much are you willing to pay for a vintage collection or a Black Series, or what do you think about the price of Legos? Are they just ridiculous? Do you not collect them because you just can't afford $100 for, whatever it might be, whatever set it might be?
Well, and there's space taking up too. It's a big
showpiece.
I
think that like I said, that's one of the main reasons we kind of shy away from Legos, and the price tag is just kind of high. But anyway, leave your comments below and let's talk some Star Wars collecting. And until next time, thanks for watching.